Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Closer to Question podcast. I'm your hostess, Maria. And today I'm going to be talking about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while, actually. It's about Christianity. And it's all the really hard questions I get from non-believers. You know, like the ones that they are gotcha moments. So yeah, let's break those down. So let's start with the story of Adam and Eve. Again, I want to disclaim that I'm not a Christian scholar. I recently got back to my faith. I've talked about in the previous episode. You know, when nothing was working for me, not star signs, law of attraction, or whatever, I was saved. I was saved when I hit rock bottom and I prayed, even though I wasn't a believer at the time. But it was like my last chance. And after that, I got very curious. I read the Bible. Actually, I did like an audio thing that works for me. And I'm not really a church goer, but I've said it before. My church is in a gym. When I work out, I don't listen to music. I put specific podcasts or YouTube channels that talk about different verses, different books from the Bible. So I try to stay connected, and I'm trying to create that intimate and personal relationship with God. So, the story of Adam and Eve. Let's start. So the book of Genesis starts with creation. It starts with, first it was darkness, and then came the light. Okay. Well, does that ring a bell? Like, even if you see it from like a scientific perspective, and that's what I'm going to be trying to do right now, explain everything from a religion and a science perspective. So first it was darkness. First it was nothing, and then light came. Could it be Big Bang? I mean, it makes sense. And then it says that, first of all, it says 7 days. Now, if there was not Earth, if there was not our planet, then how do you define time? So it says that it took 7 days for the creation, and the seventh day it was actually rest day. But could it be 7 decades or 7 centuries or 7,000 million years? We don't know that. Let's say that it starts with light, and then he created the planet. So it could be Big Bang. Then planets were created. Then, plants and animals. Could be like the dinosaur era. And then he created Adam and Eve. So even if you see from a scientific perspective, there must have been a first human, right? Let's just call him, that's like a crazy idea. Let's just call him Adam. Well, if he was like an evolution from monkeys, again, he was created. But how did he reproduce? Because you need a male and a female, right? What happened? Did she just get pregnant? Because it makes more sense that the first human was a woman, because there's XX chromosomes. But let's just say there, if he was that first human, how did he reproduce? There must have been a female, right? How was she made? Did Adam give birth to a female? See? That's where God intervened. It makes sense. I mean, it makes sense in my head. I don't know. That's some good food for thought. You got Adam and then Eve. Then it was the Garden of Eden, right? It was like paradise. There was no evil. There was no pain. Well, yeah, before mankind, there was no pain because there was no consciousness. Even if you take it from a scientific perspective, before the first human, there was no pain, there was no stress, there was no crime, there was probably, animals eating each other, but again, that they don't have consciousness. It's survival mechanism. I don't know, but it does make sense to me. So when in the Bible it talks about the Garden of Eden, it could have been our earth. It just gives it a name. In the Bible, there are a lot of parallels and metaphors. So I think that's one of them. So yes, if you ask me, I do believe in the story of Adam and Eve. it's been given to us in a more poetic way. But yeah, there must have been two first people that procreated. Otherwise, how? All right. The second question is a really big one. And I did struggle a lot to answer this one. If God is good, why is there so much evil? Okay. And also, I'm going to combine that with free will. So think about God as a parent, right? What would you want to have? Or what do you think works better? To have a controlling parent that, you have no freedom, you're so restricted. No, that is going to make you, to hate your parents, actually. You're going to have hate towards them, resentment, you won't like them. And usually people become like very rebels and lawless when they live in this kind of environment with two very controlling parents. So God is our father, but he's not controlling. He wants you to love him, but he wants you to choose to love him. Okay. Second of all, we established that Garden of Eden, the paradise, was before mankind. We're not in the perfect world. We had that and then we fucked it up. So of course there's going to be crime. Of course there's going to be pain. Of course there's going to be suffering. But I think we have kind of like demonized the word suffering and difficulties. There's nothing wrong with going through hardships and difficulties in life. Because how else are you going to build character? How are you going to be resilient and strong? But when you have faith in God, he's going to provide you with like wisdom and strength to go through all these hardships and grow. Because that's the whole point. That's the whole point of existing, is to become something better, is to create. And that's one characteristic we have with God. We love creating. We have talents. Why do we have all these things? That's a good question. Another one is like, why is it always the Christian God that gets asked about that? Oh, if God is good, then why is there evil? So are you saying that all the other gods are not good? And don't let me get started with Allah and Muhammad. Like, what kind of prophet gets married to a 6-year-old and completes, have sex with her when she's 9? Anyways. So yeah, why is it always the Christian God that gets asked about that? Did I cover all my points on free will? So yeah, we have free will, because if we didn't, then he wouldn't be a good God. He would be a controlling father. And what I've been exploring and learning through the Bible is that he's not a controlling father. He wants to have a personal and intimate relationship with you, but he doesn't want to force it on you. So you have the choice. All right, let's move on to the third one. And that's one that I don't know why it interests me so much, because I am not in that community, but I was leaning on one side, then I leaned on the other one, and then now I'm in the middle. So homosexuality a sin? Okay, let's start with, there's homosexuality in the animal kingdom. Okay. Also, fun fact, I'm an identical twin. There's been a lot of researches that when there's identical twin boys, most of the times one of them is gay. And that's because, think about it, most of the embryos are, because of the XX chromosomes, are female. So when you've got the dichotomy and the separation into two, there's not enough testosterone injected in both embryos to, to form the male body and also the desire. So it's like a normal abnormality, just like twins are. So I don't believe that you choose to become gay. I think that you're born. Or maybe you have trauma, those two. Also, it's not just the fact that you are attracted to the same sex. It's also the fact that you're not attracted to the opposite, So is it a sin? Like, do you have another choice? Usually sin is something that you do that harms others or yourself. Even gossiping, lying, stealing. I don't see it. I don't see why two people of the same sex having intercourse is like an evil thing if there is consent from both sides. Does it harm anybody? And I've worked events with LGBTQ events, and these people, I don't care what they're doing in their bedroom, they're giving me so much love and positive energy. It just felt really nice. It definitely didn't feel evil. So honestly, I don't think that it's a sin. Now, it is in the book, so I have read it. There's other translations that the word, because it's not really homosexual, there's a different word that it was translated in the Martin Luther, the German first translation, as somebody that sleeps with boys. So it could have been that, like pedophilia, because that is harmful and evil. And also, it's like, I think the question is incorrect. Is it a sin? The true question is like, what is it to you? Because let's be honest, none of us is perfect. If gossiping is a sin, who gives you the right to judge if somebody's allowed to go to church or not? What is it to us? Because if Jesus was here, well, what do you think he would do? What do you think he would say to them? Right? Do you think he would close the door to a gay person? I don't think so. But like, think about it. Who are we to judge? They are God's creations. So if you disrespect them, you disrespect God at the same time. So anyways, again, I am not a scholar, but I have a twin sister and she is not into Christianity. She's more into love attraction, which it's sad to me, but she asks me a lot of questions and she makes me not doubt my faith. If anything else, it strengthens my faith because I research more. I sit down and I think about stuff and try to make sense to things that I struggle with, with the pain and the suffering and the free will and homosexuality. These are some really good questions. So I'm thankful for that she gives me the opportunity to actually think and answer these questions. Again, these are my opinions, my theories, and I wanted to share them for a while. So, please subscribe, comment, and like. And if you disagree or you have your own theories, I'm very interested to know. So please type them down on the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if it made any sense to you. Oh, also, please go subscribe to my new page. It's called Toxic Gym Talk. It's a very completely different vibe. It's kind of like Closet Confession meeting bro science. So we talk about fitness, but in kind of like a vulgar, but I want to believe funny way. So yeah, go subscribe. That's all for me. And I'm going to see you guys at the next one. Mwah.